Welcome back to the Apprentice One-to-One special podcast for Apprentice Week. You'll see tonight I have one other guest with me. We've put out the call for someone who knows the inside and out of anything technical to do with inspection and testing. Sam's jumped in here. He's going to talk us through the entire thing, and we'll have it nailed in 30 minutes flat, so we're going to be sorted. But no, in all seriousness, Sam's just given his time up again to come and have a chat with us about this. Obviously, he's supported Apprentice One-to-One right from the very beginning, and we wouldn't even be doing this now if it wasn't for the help of EGT as it was back in the beginning. So first of all, thanks very much, Sam, for doing that and for coming on tonight. How are you?
Very, very well, mate. I'm always excited to be associated with Apprentice One-to-One because it's such an amazing thing. And I know we glossed over this last week on Monday Club, or this week on Monday Club. We went over like the amazing thing that Apprentice One-to-One's turned into. I don't think anyone really ever thought it was going to be this, and I don't think anyone ever thought it would have the impact it's had. And even yourself, did you ever expect it to be this?
No, mate, not at all. And it's ironic. If I was asked this on the Schoolmore podcast, actually, kind of what the plan is, and did you think this was going to happen? And it's like, not at all. We've got geezers giving away their tools now, and ladies, just into apprentices' hands, which is like really left field. I want seeing that happening.
And it's actually amazing.
It is, isn't it? That is totally, it's jaw dropping in a way that people are giving up stuff that they've worked hard for and bought just for nothing to people who are in need of some equipment. And it's Eddie Clemens who started that off in the outset, so full credit to him. But now there's multiple people doing it, and it's not all on social media, and that, for me, seeing that now, that's really, I'm quite proud of that's happening through Apprentice One-to-One.
It's a phenomenal thing. Like, it goes to show that people out there care about the industry on a level where they don't have to, like, for someone to like give away old tools to apprentices they don't even know is quite a thing, I think. Do you know what I mean? It's not like if you're working with an apprentice and he's got a load of old ropey tools and you've got a few bits in your bag that you can give him, often you do, because it's just what you do. But for someone to just pony up some tools to pass out to apprentices, I think it just it just reinstates people's faith that people care about the industry for nothing more. Like, and I know there's groups out there that say they do it just for nothing else but to help the industry. But this is what giving away your tools to apprentices you've never even met is the real, very definition of caring about the industry, in my opinion. I'm yet to do it. I don't really have anything worth giving away, to be honest.
Well, that's not everyone's in the position to do that, but it's nice that it is happening. And
I need to buy new tools for myself, really.
Yeah, snap, mate. I could do with getting some more new gear. Who couldn't? It's nice to have decent gear, isn't it? And some of the stuff that's been donated isn't rubbish. We've got like brand new mega test sets. There's been 1731s, 1721s. We've got the TIS MFT Pro. There's the Q-Tech stuff been sent in. It's not just rubbish out the back of people's vans. It's real decent quality gear, and I'm very proud that that's happening through Apprentice One-to-One. And off the back of some of the other stuff as well, through talking to Bob, who you put me in touch with. So again, this is linking back to you guys at EGTE. He's now got us talking with people from Nets, and they're on about coming onto the Apprentice One-to-One podcast to talk about AM2. And historically, they don't really. That's the people who look after the AM2 requirements. So they're the body who put that forward into training centres and monitor and approve it. And they don't historically come on and speak publicly at all. And the fact that they've said that they would be comfortable to come on and chat with me on Apprentice One-to-One, again, I'm quite proud of that. And that's due to the training you guys have given me in doing podcasting in a way, because I won't be sat here doing this. We've talked about this before, but there is no way I would do stuff like this if it wasn't for kind of the friendship I built with you lot. And
relax, Mark. It is literally just talking. Like, I know in the first few, you used to sit there like praying I didn't mock you for saying stuff. Like, so, I don't know, mocking your accent. You used to sit there praying, but then but essentially it's just talking on camera, having a chat with people who share a passion that you do. I mean, I think it's fair to say that anyone who comes on this podcast does have a passion on some level about something about the industry. And I think that's a very powerful thing. And that Apprentice one-to-one platform could very well be the solution that the industry's been looking for a while, in terms of a place where all parties can meet without, because there's rivalries in the industry. There just is. And that's a natural thing in any industry. But I kind of see Apprentice one-to-one as like the neutral ground, if you like.
Yeah, to a point, you're probably right. It'd be nice to see a bit more involvement from some of the bigger players in the industry. And Napit have certainly got involved with Apprentice one-to-one and myself. But it would be good to get a bit more engagement from other areas. And there are some of those organisations doing things. You know, we can't discount that. But yeah, it would be nice to see. But in terms of tonight's podcast, it was to discuss inspection and testing. And we're going to get into that in a short while. Before we go there, I want to talk about a pressing issue that's been put forward by the apprentices just this week. And we've kind of seen it blowing up on social media over the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Other electricians have kind of become aware of it and started sharing it on their social media platforms. And that's the situation some apprentices are in now, where colleges are pressing them to finish their exams and units when they haven't been trained or taught properly. They've had all of the virtual lessons cancelled or postponed. They've not been in work because they're on furlough. And, you know, it's not a nice place for them to sit, because they're concerned about losing their jobs, about losing their places at college. And, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Have you seen any of that going on social media? Have you noticed it popping up here and there?
So I've followed it a little bit, but one thing that we need to understand is what the ramifications are. Where what is the cost? What is going to be the cost for these apprentices, young or old? Now, their final exams, if they're taking their final exams, are these final exams or just end of year exams, or what?
Most of them seem to be kind of the finishing of time before they go on to do their AM2s. There are some people who are just finishing years and units, but generally it's people at the end of the 3 years just looking to get finished and put forward for AM2.
So what exams are they taking? The AM2 or the final exams for the 2330, or?
Yeah, final exams on their apprenticeship, so their NVQ apprenticeship. And what a lot of them are saying is that they've been supposed to have these virtual lessons for the last however many months. And every single time they're coming, they get cancelled and they get told to go and watch or read into how you would bend conduit, for example, for 3 hours, or go and read in how you cut some tray instead. They're not being taught anything from the lecturers. They're not being taught anything from their mentors on site, because they're not working with them. And then the colleges, because I've found out that colleges get a bonus if they hit timeframes for, and they want those apprentices to finish on time so they can collect that money. And now they're putting pressure on them to take these exams. And in fairness to the apprentices, they're saying, well, like, hang on, we don't want to be qualified electricians because actually we don't think we know what we're doing. You know, how are we going to tackle and deal with that?
It's a funny one, actually, because it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg with this sort of thing? Can they pass it? What the question needs to be really is, can they pass these tests without having the training from the colleges? That's the first question, I suppose. And then the second question would be, who is actually ever ready when they come out of their apprenticeship? I know it's a big spectrum of what's ready, but I've got to be honest. After I done my my college, I won't say an apprenticeship because it wasn't strictly an apprenticeship. After I'd done my college, I come out the other side, and there was probably another 5 years on top before I could walk on site and be confident in anything being thrown at me. So it's got two folds to that question. Have they done enough learning over the last year, virtually or in person, to pass these tests? Or are they just taking them, hoping that, or the college just getting them to take them, hoping they pass? If they don't, well, don't worry about it, because we get more money for them to resit the exam, and we'll deal with it after Corona. Because one of the things I've noticed about this pandemic is it's been a fantastic excuse for people to not do stuff. Like, for companies, not, we can't do that because Corona. even down to ordering stuff. Like every single industry has got like a bit of a lazy vibe at the moment, and I know that's quite a controversial thing to say, but it's true. People just like, oh, because of Corona, we're not doing that, and it's like, well, what? So
Yeah,
my point is, I suppose, are these colleges just putting it off and hoping to get the resit money? That's a pessimistic way of looking at it, or do they think they've done enough that these guys are going to pass, and you know they're
yeah. I
going to
mean,
have to like they're going to have to sort of knuckle down and do their CPD in their own time? I don't know what the scenario is.
no, I mean, it's a difficult one to solve, and that's the only real thing I'm trying to do is just talk about it and see if anyone does have the answer, because I certainly don't. It sounds to be that, when it was kind of starting out with coronavirus, we all thought this might last maybe a couple of months, something like that. And you don't mind referring people onto some of the CPD you can find on YouTube and wherever else. But when you're talking about a year in time, that's quite a lot that people are missing. And you can't replace that through being sat watching stuff on YouTube. It's just, you just can't. And the apprentices are saying that we think we could probably pass these exams, but when we come out to do the actual work or to be sent on to AM2, our chances are limited. And they would rather be taught properly. A lot of them are saying we'd quite like an extension, even if it was only 4 months or something like that, just an official extension where the government step in with some funding for the training centres and colleges and say, look, we understand the situation with vocational education, and we want to support you in training people properly so that they know how to do the jobs in a safe way. I think it does have to come from government, to be honest, ultimately. And I know City and Guilds have put something forward. I think they call it the Assessment Adaptation Guidance or something. And that's to do with employers leading more if they've still got their staff out at work and they can't get into college to do their exams and stuff, that the employer can kind of replace that with an adapted form of training and assessment. So there is that, and that's on the City and Guilds website. But other than that, I don't think there's an awful lot going on to help these people. And there's a lot of them who are very frustrated. Just Little Apprentice one-to-one, I maybe get 30 DMs a day about it, and all from different people. It's not the same people moaning. So it's quite, there must be quite a few people out there. And it is also worth saying, because I've spoke to a few lecturers as well, and Craig O'Neill being one of them from the Steve Willis Training Centre, and there's Arena Training as well in Sheffield. And I know that they've all done a lot to encourage virtual learning in a decent way, and it seems to be working for them. So that shows it's possible and that it can be made to work.
I'm convinced that virtual training is entirely possible and can be of a good quality. 100% convinced of that. Problem you had. So for me, my first thoughts on this is, if you think you can do the test, do the test. Let's get qualified. Worry about the details afterwards, because no one says that you have to go out and work as an electrician straight away. That's not a thing you have to do either. Yeah, you might have your qualifications. It's about, again, it comes down to self-responsibility, I think. And this is me just talking my thoughts as I go. Throughout this entire pandemic, a lot of people are sort of relying on government for answers. And I don't think a lot of those answers are definitely not coming anytime soon.
No, they're not.
So you need to accept that, right? That needs to be accepted straight off the bat. No, like I say, there's a lazy vibe to Corona. The companies and the organizations and institutions that run these courses, they ain't trying to give you answers just yet because they don't want to make a mistake. And I think what this ultimately comes down to, and it's a bit tough lovey, it is self-responsibility. How are you going to manage it? No one else is going. There's no white knight coming. There's no one's coming to rescue you. It's on you now. So my advice in this situation would be, knuckle down, do whatever you can, hit up GSH, hit up like whatever resource you need to be confident going into this exam. Get it done. And if you pass, fantastic. Does not mean you're an electrician. Don't get carried away. Use your sense of self-responsibility to manage your expectations and what you can do over the next year. What you find is, like, in this country during the pandemic, a lot of people are like, oh, they've messed up the response and all this stuff. But what we've been very lucky. We've been very lucky in terms of the support coming from the government on many things, on the big things. Like myself, I've had a few payouts from the government during this time. People have been furloughed. You know, there's been a lot of things happening to support people and the economy. On a big scale, the big stuff has been taken care of. These smaller things, and they're big in our industry, but on the scale of things across the country, they're just not going to get dealt with because they've got to prioritize things. And I think we need to have a certain sense of self-responsibility around it. And like I always say, I say this so often, we live in unique times. Every single bit of information you need can be found on the internet. There are hundreds and hundreds of people you can go to ask advice from, me being one, but mind you, don't ask advice from me. I don't really know what I'm doing. Mark, you're another one. Neil's one. There's hundreds of people out there that will happily give you some advice. There's hundreds of companies out there that are trying to do their best for their learners and stuff. And what I would suggest is, you know, the only person who can help you through this situation is yourself, really. It's how much you put into the next year. You got to take responsibility for your learning for the next year. And I know it's tough, and I know it sounds like a bullshitty thing to say, but the fact is, there's no white horse coming along.
Yeah, that is sound. You know, that you can always rely on yourself to give good, honest advice. And, you know, I wouldn't disagree with any of that, mate. You know, it's important that you do take responsibility of things for yourself. And you are right, the government are kind of on with bigger things in the grand scheme of all this than worrying about apprentices, as harsh as that sounds for the apprentices right now.
Hold on. Could you imagine going up to 10 down the street? Knock,
exactly.
Knock, with your learners. Excuse me. We're doing this test. We haven't had the training. All you get is that.
Exactly. We do. As frustrating as it is, because this is what we do every day, and we see all of this going on. We need to accept that with what is going on out there, with people losing their lives and hospitals being full to the rafters, it isn't that important, really. As horrible as that is for the people in that situation, that's the truth of the matter, isn't it?
Also, I'm not belittling their struggle, because I always find that problems are relative. So I might be broke, yeah, and I owe £10, and I'm like, how am I ever going to pay that £10? Yeah, but someone might owe £1 million, and it's all relative, isn't it? That £10 might as well be £1 million, but the stress of finding £1 million is a lot more. Do you know what I mean? It's like these small things in life that are problems to you wouldn't be problems to the next man. So. Yeah. I understand and I empathize with these learners that are really trying to do the best job they can, be the best electrician they can. But the reality of the situation, and if we're going to be talking in real terms, is you are so far down the list on help from the government. It's not even close. It's funny, actually, to see if I can put it into some sort of perspective. You've got companies like Nipex, Weha, loads of companies, tool companies, trying to get their product in from Europe. It ain't coming. They are pulling their hair out trying to get product through the border. There's roofing suppliers just not coming. Like the construction industry is being stifled by stuff not coming over from Europe, and these are problems that that the industry's got to sort out first. And training's always been on the back burner. Like even before the corona crisis, we've been moaning about apprenticeships and short courses and all this stuff. There is no silver bullet. There's no magical answer. Yes, maybe an extension would be the answer, but no one's going to mandate that because they just don't have time to look at that. The consequences of giving an extension. What's the ups? What's the downs? Let's sort out a panel to deal with that. That's going to take 6 weeks. By the time everyone's done the exam, we'll deal with that. It's almost a non-issue to people, and like outside of our industry, and that's quite sad. But again, it comes down to self-responsibility.
We do need
Just
that
need to get on with it.
self-responsibility, not just on your own, but as a community in the electrical industry as well. So there is like Apprentice 1-to-1 where we're trying to do our little bit to help and support people. There's other organisations out there who are doing the same. I think that's important, that we kind of try our best with the resources
Yes.
we've got to help people in any way we can. And that's what's going on right now. But speaking of the bigger picture and trying to actually solve the problem in the way that would fix it, is going to need help from places beyond us, I think, realistically.
Yeah, it's just not coming. We're on a desert island. There's a whole community on a desert island. It's time that we sort of got together and helped out. Really, I think is a thing. But knowing what to help with is the first struggle. So putting a team together to help people. Do you know what I mean? Like, not like a team like, I don't know, going to go out there knocking on doors and helping people. What I'm saying is putting a team of people that you can bounce questions off, that are going to go out there and find the answers for you. You know, it's a whole thing. And I think as a community, instead of going down that route, we should go down the route of, as a community, just everyone who can step up, who has the time. It's not going to detract from their responsibilities in their life, which is very important as well, because we're all struggling.
Yes.
And if all of us helped a tiny percent, we'd be a big portion to fixing the problem on a micro scale.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's kind of what is happening already. You know, we're seeing that, and it's nice to be a part of, in my little way. And the apprentices are grateful for it. And I've asked the question over on the Apprentice 1-to-1 Instagram to see what the apprentices actually feel about all of this, how they would like to handle it, what they're actually going through, and sometimes just giving them somewhere to come and talk and have someone listen and take on board what they're saying is helpful, because they're speaking to a lot of these colleges and city and guilds even, and JTL and places like that, and they just seem to get nothing back. It's like a vacuum. So they're just glad that someone's engaging with them and having a bit of discussion about their issues. So
that's a wonderful thing about Apprentice 1-to-1, is the fact that you are available and you are answering, and you know, this is just a wonderful thing about it, because like I say, a lot of these companies have a lazy vibe, not whether or not it's meant as lazy, or maybe that's a bit harsh to say a lazy vibe, but that's the best way of describing it, because everyone's working from home. We all know they ain't trying to do what they're doing in the office from home. We all know that, like, everyone's got their own struggles. A lot of the people working from home are homeschooling and doing all kinds of stuff at the same time. These little other people's problems are very small on the scale of what, even though it's their job, it's still not. These are little problems, but big problems to the people going through it. All we can do is support. I will do anything and everything I can to help you support these people. Don't ask me technical questions, but we've got the greatest library that's ever been built in our industry as GSH, the Apprentice Hub as well, eFix Apprentice Hub. There's some smaller channels out there that do some okay bits, probably worth having a look at them. And then you've got there's resources out there. It's about stepping up.
The GSH is the place to go, isn't it? That's where you start. Gary Hayes and what he's put together is just off the scale. I mean, you're never going to find anything else like that anywhere else.
And then if you're sitting your technical exams as well, sorry, Mark, I'm very bad at cutting you off. If you're sitting your technical exams, you've got Joe Robinson.
Yep. Anything sciencey, Joe is the man, and he also does Regulation Corner on the eFix Lives, which is just brilliant. I love that. So Joe's he's brilliant. I like all the stuff that Joe puts out. You know, that's the place to go, isn't it? To find stuff like that. And some of the smaller channels you mentioned, Craig O'Neill's got his that's just popped up. That's really in depth, and if you want to push your learning beyond the scope of, if you want to go beyond what would be. Even I learned stuff on there the other day that I thought, Jesus Christ, how the hell am I ever going to figure that out? It's just off the scale. You know, it gets really deep. That's well worth checking out. So there are those resources there. While I've got you on with me tonight, we have got to talk about something to do with inspection and testing, because that's the whole purpose of this little mini series. And I want to this is episode 2, by the way. I didn't make that clear at the start. So we've had Neil and Rick on first, and we've kind of spoken about the differences between initial verification and periodic inspection. We're kind of trying to take this on a journey. So we're looking at inspection now, and we'll speak about kind of a domestic scenario and when you're going into a property, the kind of things you're going to be looking for when you are inspecting. One of the things Guidance Note 3 leans towards is the general walk around first. So that's the basic assessment of a property. So if you were walking in somewhere, what's the kind of things you'd be looking for? Where would you be poking your nose in to see if something's knackered or not, in basic terms?
Well, even from a point of view, when I do a lot of local work, just putting up lights and stuff, you kind of know what you're walking into quite quickly with, I'm looking at even stupid stuff. Like I'll look at light switches at a level. Are they in good condition? And then you look at the sockets, are they in good condition? Have they been kicked in and stuff like that? And not been repaired. And then when you open up the cupboard where the board usually hiding somewhere, you can tell a lot from in there as well. And you know how everything's sort of dressed in into the board. Is it in mini trunking? Is it sunk in the wall? Is it, there's a lot of things you can tell just because it's the stuff that's not on show that's the most telling in my eyes. And then so that the initial walk around, I'd probably have a look at that. And then if you go in the kitchen, this can go two ways when you go into a kitchen. You go in there and it's nice and new, right? Nice and new. Everything's like one of them posh kitchens. And now two things can come from that. Either someone's done it really good because it's nice and new, or you've had a cowboy kitchen fitter in there and just bollocksed it up. Do you know what I mean? That's the two things that can come from that. But generally, if you walk into an old kitchen, like with yellow fittings and stuff, you're going to find a few problems in there because they used to do things differently back in the day, and it's probably been on and off a few times in its lifetime. So you might have loose connections and stuff like that. There's just that's what I would do on the initial walk around, is just look at those sort of things. Definitely check the fuse board area, because you can usually tell what's going on from that. If things are mounted pissed, or like the accessories in there, that can be quite telling that someone's just not really took the time to do a nice installation behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing you pick up through experience, and you've nailed the two biggest areas to look straight away: the kitchen and around the fuse box. Because if you're going to find something that's not quite right, it'll be around there. You'll be looking for like mismatched MCBs or RCBOs in a board, anything which isn't right clipped to the wall where it looks like someone's just fashioned in a bit of cable to get a socket on somewhere. And it's key advice. You've got to trust your
MCBs up.
Yeah.
Mismatched MCBs are such a giveaway, aren't they?
It is. It's such a common find as well. It's either a kitchen fitter or someone who's just banged some sockets in a shed or outside somewhere for Christmas lights, and they've used whatever they could find knocking about anywhere. So it's really common. And the schedule of inspections kind of lean us towards just what you've said. So I've got them in front of me here. If I look through them now, it tells you right at the start when you're running through your inspections that you're looking at the intake equipment. So that's your supplier's head and the earthing arrangements that they provide, and then looking at the bonding, the consumer unit and distribution board, and there's all the little tick boxes. There's loads of them, so I'm not going to go through every single one, but they essentially lead you towards looking at the stuff Sam's just highlighted. Sometimes we can talk too technical about all this and give the reg numbers and explaining the finest of detail, when really it's quite simple. A lot of people get put off from doing.
I was going to say, I always look for the bonding as well, because that's quite a good indication, because sometimes I've seen bonding just like taped on or cable tied on, stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? I've seen it. I was like, what is that? And you're like, what kind of lunatic does that?
Such an old trick in it that people would put a bonding clamp on and then cable tie the other end onto a joist or something, and not actually take it to the water or gas. And then at the water or gas meter do exactly the same. And you'd see it and you think, the bonding's on. But when you put a probe on, no, it ain't.
But it's not.
Yeah, so that's another good shout.
Yeah. So I think bonding is an important one. That gives you a good idea. But saying that, sometimes bonding's done after the fact and it's just slung in it. So you can't really get a great idea from the quality of the installation from the bonding. But you can kind of understand the maintenance side of it. If someone's just put bonding in and cable tied it somewhere, you know there's certainly something afoot.
Yeah, you do. Certainly, you can usually tell that when someone's just popped it in there because they've had to, when it's slung down the side of the house and then drilled back through in the kitchen. And there's a few clips, if you're lucky, holding it up outside. That's often what happens. But yeah, the schedule of inspections, again, they go on through your final circuit. So it runs you through checking if cables are supported, the conditions of the accessories. And it's often just the basic checks. So you are looking for damage. You are looking to make sure that the wiring system's appropriate for where it's installed. And make sure that you're checking all those things. Obviously, when it's a new installation, you'll know it is because you're the person who's done it. But on an EICR, you've got to be confident when you're putting a tick somewhere that you've actually checked it. If you haven't, it's a limitation, and explain why that would be the case. And it kind of does follow you through the installation. So that was the purpose of asking Sam what he would do when he walked in. And he's described almost exactly the process of following the schedule of inspections, but in layman's terms of how electricians are doing it day to day, every day, because you kind of get into a routine of how you do these things. And the form itself, if you want to check it out, is on page 184 of the on-site guide, or it's in the regulations on page 476.
What is going on?
Are you still there, or have I been dropping out? Hello? Did I drop out?
There's a host now. Hello, mate.
Did I drop out then?
Drop out, mate. Have you ever? So have you ever been to a property? I've done a few lately where I've been to changing out lights, light fittings. You take the old light fitting down, and there's like a monstrosity, a disaster behind it, and you're like, Jesus. And then you take down another light fitting in another house, and it's like all perfectly in, and you're like, oh, that's going to be easy, you know. Yeah. And if you know what I don't come across a lot is Waygos. I'm yet to come across a house that's used Waygos. There's still. And you would think that would be more of a thing. That's quite a good sign. If it's been messed about with recently, is if Waygos are in.
Yeah, that's a good shout, because you would know if within the last sort of 3, maybe 4 years, there's been some work going on. And the same, actually, I can't think of any installs I've seen recently where Waygos are used, apart from ones we've put them in. So yeah, that would be a good shout for dating the work, because you often ask that as well when you think some other work's been carried out on your forms. You've got to put an estimate on that. So if you're seeing Waygos, maybe what we're saying, 5 years as a maximum, do you think? When they got used? I can't think when they I think it maybe even more recent than that, actually.
Push-in connectors have been around for a while, but Waygo lever connectors, I think, might be a maximum of 10 years maximum, I think. I don't know. Yeah. Couldn't tell you.
Well, the Waygos are brilliant, aren't they? What an invention they are.
Yeah. Wouldn't you like to be Mr. Waygo out there? Like, you must be worth a few quid for something
like a piece of that pie. Yes, definitely. So we're getting towards the end of the time for this episode 2, and before we leave it, we have got a couple of competitions running. You won't know about this first one, Sam, because you weren't with us, but there's the TIS MFT Pro that's kindly been donated by Steve. And that's
I'm so jealous of that. Can I have it?
You can enter the competition. That's
I want you to give it to me.
Could you imagine if you won it? the old Pro.
It's rigged. I wouldn't know what to do with it, even if I did get it. So relax.
Of course you would. Full case with a calibration certificate and everything. And the question was
around with it like that.
Yeah.
Hello?
Well, most people just leave them in the van, from what I hear, anyway. So you'd be doing more with it than a lot of guys. Anyway, the question we set was, what is the value of ZS in my shed on the socket circuits? We're going to measure it. We're going to pick a winner from the comments, whether we've got gets the closest guess. You can enter on any of the videos through the mini series. So if you want to enter, drop your comments in there, and we'll announce a winner at the weekend following the end of Apprentice Week. And just so you've got a rough idea, this is on an earth electrode. So it's not a TT, because Neil's already corrected me on that, but it is an earth electrode system down here. So you're going to have quite a high number. It's not going to be low, as a clue. And also we have 2 Ferret Wi-Fis to give away. And the question, yes, exactly. Nice. Another nice donation.
Can't you give away one and give me one?
I was thinking of maybe giving myself one. I quite like a Ferret Wi-Fi. I've seen people using them, and they look incredible. I've got one of the cheaper versions because my budget didn't stretch that far. And It's rubbish. I've used it once, and it was like, this is gash. It is nothing like.
Is it one on a cable?
Yeah, and it gets like dust on it in 5 seconds flat, and it doesn't work. It's rubbish.
I know, and you have to have an app, and then the app's like some Chinese thing, all in hieroglyphs, and you're like, I don't know what this is doing. Takes 3 hours to connect it, even with a lead.
I wish I'd just bought the proper thing that actually worked, but it's too late now. Anyway, there's 2 of those to give away, and Neil has set a question. He was supposed to be with us tonight, but he's too busy, something to do with ticket stations flooding. He's probably in a pub somewhere in secret. But he set the question of, what is the value of ZE on a 250 amp TPN supply? So you've got a network. Yes. Yeah, you've got a network supply into your premises, a 3-phase one. It's 250 amp. What's the value of ZE? And you can enter in the comments again, and we'll pick 2 winners. We'll do it through a random number selection or something, and we'll announce those at the end of the week as well. And sorry, I should actually make clear, it's a TNCS head. So yes, TNCS PME.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's important, and it's not the number people might actually think of, which is why Neil thinks he's been clever setting that question. But I reckon the apprentices are going to know it, and they're going to nail it. I believe in them.
I do too. And I want to close out with this statement. I sympathise with the apprentices going through this. I'm not heartless about it. I do sympathise with it, and I do have compassion for their plight. When I say man up, it's very important to understand what I mean by that. Take responsibility for your own learning, because ultimately, it doesn't matter what position you're in. The only person going to get you out of it is you, by using your ability to connect the dots and get yourself out of this problem is going to be you. And if you're lucky, someone nice like Mark or the other people out there willing to help you will help you get over the line. But they're not going to do it if you don't come to them. So it's up to you to get out there and get out there and take responsibility for this problem. It's not a problem that you looked for. It's not a problem you wanted, but it's a problem you got. The only way of dealing with it, self-responsibility, get it fixed.
It's good advice. And we've actually had quite a few apprentices getting in touch about mental health as well, which is something we're all struggling with. And if you want to go and check out Sam's podcast, he has a podcast specialising in mental health. We've talked about all these other people, GSH and all the other places you can go and get support around electrical issues. If you want to go and delve into the depths of mental health, go and check out Fat Sam's podcast. There is already a raft of guests on there who've come and spoke about their experiences. Some of them are frankly, staggering. There's some stories on there that moved me, and I think everyone would benefit from listening to some of those things and puts other aspects of their own lives into perspective, as well as getting some support.
Also, what I will say is we're doing a 28-day challenge at the moment. Although it's already started, doesn't mean to say you can't jump in and become a part of the 28-day challenge. You might not end up doing the 28 days, or you might. It's up to you. But get involved, because it is designed specifically to get you out of bad habits into good ones. That helps with mental health. It gets you out of bed. It gives you a reason to get up. It's tough. It's not easy. We've had more people drop out this week than any other time before. It's hard. It is hard. But the payoff is changing bad habits. And look at me. I am the poster boy of bad habits. So it's helping me. It will help you if you're struggling with just life in general. I know I've spent way too much time with my wife in the last couple of weeks. So any excuse to get up and get out is helpful.
Yeah, go and check that out as well. There's lots of people taking part, and I'm sure people will find that useful. Thanks so much for coming on and having a chat with me tonight, Sam, and giving up your time. I know you're going to come on and do one more episode with Neil if he actually can turn up this time. And we've got another 2 episodes dropping to finish off this little series, and then we'll announce the winners to the competitions further on, probably in the weekend afterwards. But yeah, cheers for coming for a chat, mate. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, mate. I absolutely love it. I love being a guest on your podcast, and I appreciate everything you're doing for the industry. Thank you.